y'all, it's me, Shaw 360. I'm doing a fairly late night video here. It is 10 o'clock where I live. It's like 10:20. It's almost 10:30. So that means that my East Coast friends are probably asleep by now. My Pacific friends are about to go to sleep, and I have no idea what time zones we are in the rest of the world. But this is an hour where I don't normally get a lot of people watching my videos, and that's good because I don't really want a lot of people watching this video necessarily. I know that's weird. You'd think you're posting something on YouTube, you should want a lot of views, but not really. Not for this one. Because this one, I don't know. I'm not saying the nicest things, and that's the reason why I don't want a lot of people to see this, I guess. I mean, I'm not ashamed of what I'm saying. If I was, I wouldn't say it on such a public post. But I guess I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want to deal with a lot of people giving me feedback on the possibly negative thing today. So this morning I woke up with overall sense of dread. I always do during days like this. So this is Monday, November the 7th. Is that the day? No, November the 9th. I lose time. Anyway, the American presidential election was kind of overall concluded on Friday evening, Saturday morning, maybe. Uh, for the most part. I mean, we've got lawsuits and all kinds of other stuff going on, but it was assumed due to polling information that was submitted to the AP that Joe Biden has won the political race and that he will be our next president of the United States. But I say all this with cautious optimism because there's lawsuits, there's recounts, there's all kinds of stuff going on. And at the end of the day, even if we have a different president than Donald Trump, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done. And I can't say that I have the most faith that the new president is going to be able to do the things that need to get done because we're still having a two-party system. There's a lot of party beholding and favors to be repaid and shit like that. So because I don't have a lot of faith in the American political system, I just don't really feel like it's time to have a party because there's just still so much wrong in so many areas. There's judges and systematic racism and laws that basically perpetuate poverty, just all this other stuff that needs to be dealt with. So anyway, Monday I was dreading. I totally got off course with that discussion, but Monday I was dreading because usually the day after a presidential election people are super salty at work. So I woke up in the morning thinking, fuck, I'm gonna have to go to work and people are gonna have shit to say, and I don't really feel like dealing with that right now because, I just don't wanna. I don't have these conversations. This is gonna be a busy week at work for me. I just don't wanna deal with this, right? Well, I thought that my day would go better by listening to the new Taman song because Taman's Never Gonna Dance Again came out today for me. It probably came out yesterday for Korea, but it came out today for me. And I'm like, I really, really liked Never Gonna Dance Again, Act 1. I really, really liked Criminal. I liked a lot of the B-sides. I am really looking forward to this album. It is going to be a bright spot for me, something I can listen to over and over again at work while I am dealing with the bullshit. And I heard the album, I watched the video, I heard the lead single, and this is the reason why I should go into things cautiously optimistic. Cautiously optimistic. Because I don't understand. I don't understand. On the one hand, I will give Taman this. Act One's visuals, B-sides, concept all really went together very well. And if Act 2 is supposed to be an opposites of sorts to Act 1, I think he pulled that off. Definitely Act 2 feels like it bears no relation to Act 1 in any way, shape, or form. It's a different color palette. It's a different set of songs, styles of songs. But I guess it also is engendering opposite reactions in me particularly, because I just I did not get it. I'm so sorry. I just didn't get it. The song Idea, first of all, it has a false start, which really bothered me. So it begins, and you think you're in verse one, and then you think you're at the chorus, and then another verse begins, and then you realize that was a false chorus. It wasn't the complete chorus. And so you're like, okay, are we doing this? Are we going to do this a second time? Are we going to do this false start again? Like, it just, the way that the song is structured is not the way a song is typically structured for radio or for albums. Most songs are structured uh intro, verse 1, pre-chorus, chorus, verse 2, pre-chorus, chorus, maybe chorus a second time, build up to the bridge, and then chorus, chorus out. That's usually how most radio songs are structured. This song is not structured like that, and already I'm starting out confused. And then the song is called Idea, and the word idea is like idea. This song is not a song, in my opinion, that is made for someone to listen to recreationally the same way that Criminal was. To me, Criminal was a song that was made to be played in the car, on your headphones, maybe while you're reading a book, doing some studying, maybe just, kind of dancing, prepping up for putting on your mask and heading to the grocery store, whatever you happen to be doing these days. But it had a very conventional song structure, and it played like a conventional song. To me, Idea is a song made for dancers attempting to assemble dance routines. It's not a casual listening song at any juncture, and it's definitely not the kind of song you'd throw in on the background, because it is so kind of disorienting that you would not be able to pay attention to anything but that song, because of like all of the different tonal changes and voice changes, and just, yeah. And so like I didn't get it. I didn't get it, and it may be one of those things where it grows on me over time, but for initial listen, I couldn't get into Idea. And the further I got into the album, the more I was like, I can't even identify a favorite B-side. I was really looking forward to Pansy, because Pansy is the song that's supposed to be the song for Shawwalls. So I'm like, okay, Pansy's gonna be great because it's a fan song, and it has an interesting title. It's named after the flower, not after the slur. And yeah, it was just like, standard ballad fare, kind of like an ode to you, like that kind of thing. And I just was, again, I had been cautiously optimistic, and thank goodness I was cautious. I listened to some of the other songs, and they were all right, but it just, I don't know. I feel like Act Two, to me, not to everybody, to me, was a a steep decline from the quality of Act One, and I don't know. It makes me very curious if there's going to be a repackage, like an Act Three, because most plays have three acts. Play in three parts, movies, three acts. I'm hoping that Act Three will be a combination, if there is an Act Three, that Act Three will be a combination of Act One, Act Two, and maybe some other songs, and then they like rearrange the mix so that the storyline makes sense. But I've already pre-ordered this album, and I would have anyway, just because I collect all of the Shiny albums. But I'm I'm not best pleased. I'm not best pleased with this. And to be honest with you, a lot of music in the last month, I should say, has left me not best pleased. There's been some stuff that I've listened to that I've really and truly adored. I think Everglow's Mini is actually a really decent mini. Me and Stephanie listened to it the other day in the car. We decided to get in the car and just drive around at night listening to music. And I thought Everglow's Mini with La Da Di Da was really decent. The first two songs are probably my favorite songs. It would be La Da Di Da, and then Untouchable, I think is the second song. Liked them a lot. I thought the other song was not that bad. TXT's new mini album, Blue Hour, I adore it. I've actually ordered it. It's going to come in with my Taman albums. That's why I don't have it already. But I really, 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 really liked that album. I liked We Lost the Summer. I really liked Blue Hour a ton. I thought that was such a good song. I even thought that like Ghosting was pretty interesting. I thought that a couple of the songs on that mini sounded very much like the kind of songs you would expect to hear on the soundtrack of a show like Love Victor or something like that. It was very kind of like, I don't know, atmospheric more than it was our aesthetic. The sound is very aesthetic more than it was something that maybe I would normally gravitate to, but I really enjoyed it. But then I went to go listen to the Wei, is that how you pronounce it? WEI, that group. I went to listen to their album and I was completely underwhelmed. I think I liked the very first song I heard, and then after that, I just, everything kind of blended together. Nobody's vocals really stood out. It was meh. I listened to P1 Harmony's album. I like the Neomade. Is that what that name of that song is? I like that song, and there was one other song that I thought was decent. But overall, was unimpressed. Trying to think who else I listened. I listened to AB6's new project. Wasn't really that impressed. I did like Six's new CIX. I think that's how you pronounce it. CIX. I did like their mini album quite a bit. It is a very sexy sounding album. The guys' voices sound very mature, which I think is why sexy is the word that comes to mind. But I did like the production on it. I thought that the sounds were pretty good. I actually think that Drippin's debut, not bad. Their debut mini is not bad. I can't say that there's a particular song on that mini that stands out to me. Probably the lead single is my favorite. But I just remember listening to it and thinking, this is pleasant. But that's really as much as I could give to you. This is pleasant. There was one song though, and I'm trying to figure out which song that is. It may have been Shine or it may have been Color. I can't recall now, but there's one song where at the very beginning of the song, I thought that I heard Zion T singing, but it wasn't. It was just one of the members of the group, I think. But I was like, hold up, wait a minute. And I'm like, listen, if you've got a member of your group who can mimic or imitate Zion T's voice, use that. Use that a lot because that's very efficient. That works quite a bit. And I'm trying to think what else I listened to. I think I already talked about Twice and how I like their album quite a bit. I Can't Stop Me is a great song. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, G Friends Walpurgis Night. I have not listened to the album, but Mago, I love everything about that. It's not as much of fave to me as I Can't Stop Me, but I think I like the video for Mago better than I like the I Can't Stop Me video, but I like the I Can't Stop Me song more than the Mago song. But the Mago song is like slightly disco-y, which I really, really dig a lot because disco is one of my favorite genres of music. I've said it before on a live stream. But I also really love the look of the video. If you haven't seen the G-Friend Mago video, the looks are very kind of 70s era. It's not strictly disco. It's like they've got like bell bottom jeans, but they're like a really slight bell with nice blouses. They've got some kind of Chanel suit matching coordinated pieces in it. And then they've got like a lot of glitter tops, glitter dresses, things of that nature. But I thought that everyone's hair and makeup was super beautiful. I thought that the way that they put the filter on the video, that kind of peachy filter that everything had, was a really good stylistic choice because it softened up with some more harsh look, because disco can be a very harsh look with all like the sequins and everything else. So I thought the peach filter was really nice. And there's a couple of scenes where they're all dancing on the dance floor together, and there's like these glitter effects in the air while they're dancing that I just thought looked breathtaking. It just looked like the most fun anybody could have. But outside of that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like 2020 as a whole has had really great K-pop. I have to say, starting all the way back with the very beginning of the year with Zico's Any Song, and then moving forward from there, 2020, for all that coronavirus has done to ruin this year for us, has had some very, very good K-pop stuff. And, you know, you can't deny it. Just look at it. It's been really, really nice. But I feel like as we're rounding out to the end of the year, people don't want to do big promotions at the end of the year. So we're not going to get as much great stuff as we normally would. And I think the reason a lot of the boy bands have decided to drop projects this late in the year is not just because, you know, they couldn't tour stuff the way that they wanted to, but I think maybe it's because if it doesn't do as well, if maybe they're trying to feel out their audience because of the time of the year, they don't expect it to do as well, maybe. I don't know. But it's just, I wish that the end of the year was finishing off a little bit stronger. I really wish it was. On the indie front, there's a lot of really good stuff out there to listen to. Dynamic Duo's new song Soon. I really like it, but it sounds like typical Dynamic Duo, so it's nothing startling. It's just something pleasant that you're used to. Jung Jin Woo from Planetarium, he's got a new project. It's digital only, unfortunately, but it sounds really, really great because he's got collabs with everyone else who's still left on Planetarium because Villain left. So it's just Gaho, Moti, I'm trying to think one more person whose name for some reason I cannot recall, and then Jung Jin Woo. Oh, Jung Jin Woo. But yeah, that's what's going on with them. Woods is having a comeback, which have you seen the concept photos for Woods' comeback? There's one set of concept photos that are kind of an autumnal color concept. It's like browns, and he's got this hat, which the close-up of the hat looks a little suspect, but I'm not going to say anything about it. But then the other set of photos, he is wearing padded bat wings with a black long sleeve shirt and kind of a chunky knitted vest thing over it, and a bright pink spider purse. I don't know. I have to know, what is this? What is this concept? Because Woods' last album, his debut album, debut mini album. I don't know. I get confused. That one, I remember the video being wild and not being able to tie the concept photos for the album to the video at all, in my opinion. So maybe these concept photos aren't going to play a part in the video, but I really sincerely hope they do, because I have got to see the video that has some correlation with him wearing padded bat wings. I've got to see it. I don't know what it could possibly be. I don't want to cast any guesses about it, but what kind of concept are you going for with the padded bat wings and the pink spider purse? I just want to know. I'm not criticizing your fashion. I'm not saying it's wrong, because, you know, I enjoy kawaii concepts, fairy key, stuff like that. But I just really need to know, what the hell are we getting here? You have to tell me, please. Just fill me in. So Woods is coming back. Boa is having her comeback fairly soon. It is her 10th album, and it is a part of her 20th anniversary celebrations. There are 3 versions of her album. Now, I really like Boa. I don't buy nearly as much Boa as I should, but I do like Boa quite a bit. But she's asking for a lot right now. I don't know if it's maybe because Boa's albums don't sell the same way they used to, that the record label decided maybe we should just charge more, because if we're not going to do big sales, maybe at least the hardcore fans will give us a lot of money for this album. But there are three different tiers for this album. There is the regular tier of the album, which I believe is around $28. There is the deluxe tier of the album, which is almost $50. And then there is a cassette tape, which is around $25. Now, if you go to K Town For You, it's a bit cheaper. These are prices that I saw on Music Plaza. But there have been no details about what these albums contain. Like the cassette tape being $25, it's a cassette tape. I know what a cassette tape looks like. I'm not expecting extravagant packaging with a cassette tape. But telling me it's going to cost $50, you have to give me a clue as to what we're getting here. Is it a Kino set? Are we getting like a really super thick photo book? Like, you have to tell me something. I want to support, because like I said, I like Boa. I haven't bought everything she's done, but Boa has some stuff I really, really like. And so that's why I'm just saying, like, please fill me in. Tell me what's going on. Ooh, Sarah, you got the Geary Boy cassette? Hold on to that thing, because that thing sold out so incredibly fast. So, yeah, keep that, put that away somewhere, lock it up, lock and key, because you may be able to resell that one day if you ever find yourself in a pinch. But yeah, like, I just, Boa, let me know. I mean, I would love to support you and buy the cassette, but just let me know. Speaking of cassettes, cautiously optimistic. I really hope that the people who bought the BTS Life Goes On vinyl and cassette actually get what you paid for. I really, really hope you did, because I bought the Dynamite vinyl and cassette when it was for sale, because it didn't sell out as quickly as this one did. And I was severely disappointed in the quality. I have the video here on my channel. I've since sold my vinyl, and by the way, I I have been accused of being a price gouger because I wanted to protect the value of the School Love Affair Special Edition. I'm not a price gouger by any stretch of the imagination. I just feel like if you paid a lot of money for something because it was rare, it should remain rare. Not saying that people can't reproduce it, but I'm just saying, like, if you reproduce it, like, make changes to it that differentiate the versions. That would be nice. But anyway, I'm digressing. When I bought the vinyl for Dynamite, I was very underwhelmed with the pressing, so I sold my copy for like $20, which, when you include shipping, it was $20 shipped. When you include shipping, I pretty much sold it for what I paid for. But when I talk about being disappointed with the Dynamite pressing, it has nothing to do with the quality of the music that BTS is serving. It has everything to do with the quality of the actual vinyl press itself. I believe this is a US factory that's doing these vinyl presses. The album comes in a sleeve, like every album does, that cardboard sleeve that albums come in. But because it's a single, it's about yay big. It's not big like full form LPs are. It's about yay big. It does not have a paper sleeve inside of the cardboard sleeves. So for those of you who may not be familiar with albums and how albums are traditionally packed, usually if you have an LP, especially with the larger size ones, you have the cardboard sleeve with the one side opening. And when you go to pull out the vinyl, in order to keep the vinyl from getting scratched by the cardboard, there's usually like a paper sleeve that covers the vinyl, and then you pull the vinyl out of the paper sleeve that's inside the cardboard sleeve. And sometimes the vinyl will have lyrics printed on the paper sleeve. There might be a photo on the paper sleeve. There'll be something. And this particular pressing did not have a paper sleeve at all. Like, literally, it was just the cardboard, and then the vinyl was inside the cardboard, which, again, storage wise, could be a problem because you could scratch your vinyl very easily by packaging it that way. But in addition to it not having a paper sleeve like most albums would, most LP vinyls would, um, there were no credits on the sleeve at all. It just said Dynamite several times on the front. On the back, I think there was like a trademark dating, but there was no track list on it. There was no production credits on it, nothing of the sort. And then there was no paper sleeve on the inside, so there weren't any credits there. And it was only pressed on one side. And again, for those of you who aren't familiar with vinyls, vinyls are made in a very primitive way. It's basically the vinyl material is heated up, they put it on a vinyl press, and most vinyl presses have plates that are inserted to print on one side and then to print on the other. This vinyl pressing was completely flat and unprinted on one side and then pressed on the other. So the song was literally only on the one side of the vinyl, which is a very cheap way to make a vinyl. And then the cassette I still have, it has nothing on it. Like it doesn't have, it says Dynamite and it's a blank, well, not blank, but like just a really super plain cassette. And so I found out that they were pressing for the single For Life Goes On. I almost thought about getting a vinyl just to see if the vinyl would be improved. But then I saw the covers for Life Goes On, both the vinyl and the cassette, and I knew immediately, like, it's going to be the same thing. Don't even buy it. It's going to be the same thing. So if you haven't gone to the website, I think it's BTS b.us, I think is the website. It looks like a PowerPoint slide. It is a darker blue turquoisey flourish, and then a lighter bluish turquoisey area, and then in the darker blue turquoise it says Life Goes On, and it looks like it's printed in Arial font maybe. But yeah, it's just it looks like an intern took all of a minute to type it out and said, "Here you go. Here's your cover." And I would like to talk to Big Hit about that. I would really. What just said that they deleted the pictures. Let's see. The comment says this latest BTS comeback rollout is so confusing concept wise for me. You just said that they deleted the pictures. Okay, I'm confused. They deleted the pictures of the foamy bat wings. What are we deleting here? I don't know. So Sarah's comment about the latest BTS comeback rollout being confusing. It is a little bit confusing. We are, I think, 11 days away from the next BTS comeback, and it's the B album, BE. We've gotten some teaser pictures of them in these little separate rooms. We've had a group photo. From what I've heard or what I've read, and I don't assume to know everything. Please don't think that I should know everything because I follow a lot of different groups, so I get a lot of shit confused. And I also work for a living, so I don't have a lot of time to spend researching every little thing. But from what I understood about this particular album, it's supposed to be a completely self-produced, self-written album. If I'm wrong, please let me know because I'm not trying to be wrong. That's just what I've heard and what I've understood, which makes me think that Dynamite is not supposed to be on this album. I say that because BTS didn't write Dynamite and they didn't produce Dynamite, so I don't I don't think it would be on this album if the whole album is supposed to be self-produced. I don't know any details about Life Goes On, so I don't know if maybe the reason why. Oh, okay, they deleted the ones with the headdress. Got you. I don't know any details about Life Goes On, so I can't say if that's going to be on the album or not. I don't know if it's another one of those things where the song was written by somebody else. I can't even begin to guess on that. But they gave us Dynamite, and it felt like to me Dynamite was like a one-off thing. Like it was like a what they call a pre-hype single. Like it felt like Dynamite was that, or maybe BTS like, well, our big hit was saying there's been such a big gap between when Seven came out and when B came out. We just wanted to like do a little something to get fans excited, to also give our artists something to perform during award seasons or whatever. Like just a little something to whet the appetite, build a little hype for the project. But B the album, I am really confused about this album because, and like I said, correct me if I'm wrong, because I have to look at so much stuff all the time that it's really hard for me, again, like I said, to keep up with the details. When the album for B first went on sale, I remember very clearly I was on Twitter at night and people were like, bitch, you better hurry and go to the Weverse shop because the B album has gone for sale tonight on Weverse, and it is a limited edition, deluxe edition album. Get it before it sells out. And that night, I remember going to the Weverse shop and ordering 2 copies because there were supposed to be 2 different covers. So I wanted to make sure I had each cover since there were only 2. And also because the way it sounded like this was a limited edition, limited run. And I didn't want to be in the same position as I was with School Love Affair because I ordered this before they announced that School Love Affair was going to get a reprint. So I went on the website the night it came out. Me and a whole bunch of other people were scrambling to get our copies before the limited edition sold out. And then I want to say the next day I saw that they were being sold on all of your typical K-pop websites. But then I saw that it was being sold at Target. And this was when I was looking for the School Love Affair after they announced the reprint. I was checking to see if Target was going to have it, and it did. And I was like, okay, I'll go buy it there. But yeah, I went to the Target website and it was being sold there. This deluxe edition was being sold of the new album. And I'm confused now. Was it not a limited edition? And I just assumed it was because of the way that it was phrased. Was it always going to be a deluxe edition? And also, if this is the deluxe edition, what is the regular edition? Because just like I was talking earlier about how Boa has 3 different versions of her new album, she's got a deluxe, a regular, and a cassette. Usually, if something is announced as being the deluxe edition, there is a regular edition that's also available. But I haven't seen any websites talk about a regular edition. I haven't seen any pricing for a regular edition. So I'm very confused about how this album situation is supposed to go on. Like, are all of the copies deluxe editions and there is no regular edition? Has anyone seen a regular edition of the new album available for pre-order? I mean, I'm not asking this as a hater move or anything like that, but I just feel like I've been very confused about this album, and I'm just looking for some clarity here. I'm not looking for, I'm not trying to criticize anybody. I'm not trying to be mean about anything. I'm just really kind of confused about whether or not this album has more than the 2 covers that I've already paid for, that were already talked about. And if it really was supposed to be a limited run and then maybe Big Hit changed their mind, like, I'm just, is anyone else expecting there to be, am I the only person that expects there to be a regular edition? Did anybody else expect there to be a regular edition and they're waiting for the regular one to go on sale as well? Or is everybody content with there only being a deluxe edition available? Also, I have to say, I would be very surprised. I mean, well, let me take that back. I'd be surprised but not surprised if there's not a regular edition, because I feel like at the price point that this deluxe edition is, this price point is the same price point as School Love Affair Special Edition. A lot of people bought School Love Affair the week that it came out from like Target and a bunch of other places, and it had really good sales. But the sales of School Love Affair weren't nearly as high as the sales for like Seven or Persona or the Love Yourself series. And part of that is because number one, it's a reprint of an old album. So it's not new material. So a lot of BTS fans who got into BTS maybe in the last 2 or 3 years might not be interested in owning School Love Affair because that might not be the style of music they're used to hearing from BTS. But number two, that album was $45 if you didn't have a discount code or if you didn't get it on sale. And for a lot of people, that's a lot of money to spend on an album. So people aren't buying 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 copies like they normally would with a regular release because it costs so much more. You know, for $45, you could usually get 2 regular albums. So if somebody really wanted to collect BTS, but they were maybe used to paying $25 for an album, the School Love Affair might have still been a little bit out of reach, or maybe one of those things where like they waited until they could buy it because of the cost, the price point. But B is an album of brand new material, and usually companies really like the first week sales to be really big. So again, I'm asking the question, why wouldn't there be a regular edition that would be in the $20 to $25 price range so that fans can buy a bunch of copies and also kind of push up the album sales? Because that is one thing that BTS is really known for. They're known for really strong album sales. And part of that is fans buying multiple versions. And so in order to make it easy for fans to buy multiple versions, it makes sense to make a regular edition that's at a more conventional price point. So yeah, I'm confused about this comeback. I'm really confused about this comeback. But there's been so much music coming out that I haven't really had time to sit and dwell on it. I really haven't because I've just been so consumed by so much other stuff. Okay, so Lixbrick says, I won't be surprised if they release the regular album a few days after the comeback. If they did that, that feels bizarre to me. I mean, if they did that, that's their business, but it feels personally quite bizarre to me, timing wise, because that's not normally how they roll things out. So that's surprising. That's really surprising. Most people, they make all the versions of the album available the day the album comes out. Most companies do. So that's strange to me. It's not me being mean, it's strange to me. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's funny because the conversation I'm having with you guys right now, it's almost a verbatim retelling of a conversation I was having with Mason offline. And one of the things he was saying is that he recently went back and he re-listened to the Fake Love album, and he found that there was a lot of stuff on there that he liked that maybe he really didn't get the first time around. And it's got me thinking I probably need to re-listen to Seven a couple more times before the new album comes out, because my initial listening to Seven, I can't say it was my favorite project. Probably still to this day, my favorite BTS whole project would be the Young Forever project. There's just a lot of really great content there that I really, really dig. But probably the BTS album that I liked the most the very first time I heard it is probably Greatest Moments in Life Part 2. When I first heard Greatest Moments in Life Part 2, I was like, I like this a lot. Like immediately on first listen. In fact, I remember the very first time I heard Run. The very first time I heard Run was when I watched the music video, and the very first notes of that song, I got chills. I'm like, this is it. This is the one. And probably still it is my favorite title track by BTS, like I said, just because of how I instantly knew it was something special. That ding, 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 ding. I'm all out of key. That ding, 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 wah, wah, wah. That part. Immediately I'm like, okay, feed me more. And then I love like the styling for that video. I love the styling for that mini album. Like it's really good styling. It's a really nice video. It just has a certain kind of energy to it. The song, the chorus is just really classic, and the bridge, whew, that song right there. I could just spend all day talking about that song, really. But yeah, um, I feel like I've had a harder time getting into some of the later projects. And, there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not, part of it is because I'm old and a lot of the style of the music is not my personal style of music. But I think also I do spend a little bit more time kind of comparing newer projects to older projects. So I would like to spend some time re listening to Seven just to kind of get my mind right, because perhaps the B album will be more like what we heard on Seven than it will be like what we've heard previously from BTS. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. It's self produced, and they did a lot more self production earlier than what they're doing currently. Like the last couple of projects have had a lot of collaborators. And so I think part of the reason why it differs so much from BTS's earlier style is because of the sheer number of collaborators they brought into these projects. A lot of hope, a lot of high profile collaborations, a lot of songwriters on every single song, a lot of different producers. So we'll see. We'll see. So David asked me, do you think Taemin is going to have a combination album of acts 1 and 2? I talked about that when I first went on live stream, and I said that if it's like a play or a movie, normally there's 3 acts. And so it would make sense for there to be a third act, possibly a combination of act 1 and 2, plus maybe a couple more songs to kind of string the 2 storylines together. But I don't know. I have no idea. Taemin is 27, which means we probably only got a couple more years before we have to be looking at military time. And from what I've read, Pansy, I guess, is supposed to be a song for Shawwals to listen to while he's in the military. So maybe Act 3 is going to be a goodbye album. Not saying it should be, but it could be. You just never know. Esther G says, have you ever remembered loving an album when it first came out, but after you re-listen to it, you realize you didn't like it as much? Yeah, I think everybody's had that reaction to things from time to time. I'm trying to think of an album that like I super changed my mind about after listening to it. Because most albums grow on me. Like if I like an album when I first hear it, usually after a certain amount of time, it just becomes a part of my DNA, and I just have this instant reaction like, oh, that's good. Trying to think of an album that I liked a lot when I first heard it, but I don't like it as much now. Okay, unpopular opinion, because I actually really love the majority of this group's discography. So this is a really strange thing to say. But I have listened to Big Bang's Alive album, and I loved that album when I first heard it. And I really love Still Alive because Monster is an underrated classic. But I recently listened to it in the car probably about a month to a month and a half ago, and I forgot how much I disliked some of the B-sides. And when I was listening to it again, I was like, ooh, I didn't like that song. Like, I'm one of the few people who doesn't like Bingle Bingle. A lot of people do, but it's not a song that I enjoy. Sorry. And so, yeah, I was really surprised that some of the B-sides on Alive, I just was not a fan of. But I still stand by my love for the main songs. I still do. And like, again, like I said, Monster on Still Alive, people do not give that song enough credit. Like, there's a lot of people who were disappointed by Monster because it wasn't this like big kind of club bombastic song the way that Fantastic Baby was. But if you're in the right mood, if you get your head right and you listen to Monster again, that song is really, really perfect. Like it's almost, it is atmospheric, but it's also it's almost cinematic. Not just the video. I'm talking about the song itself. Like when you listen to that song takes you on a journey. And like the way it starts out kind of insistent. I'm singing it wrong. Leave me alone. I love you, baby. I'm not a monster. Ah, man, that song so much. That song, woo, chills. There's a lot of Big Bang songs that I really, really like. Like I'm not as big a fan of Big Bang's early discography, like the super early discography, like the first few minis. Not my fave. They're okay, but they're not my fave. But like I would say starting with the special album and moving forward, a lot of stuff to love about Big Bang. And like especially starting with like I would say Tonight. Tonight still to me is one of my favorite Big Bang songs, and a lot of people forget about Tonight because it sounds excuse me, it sounds like the prototype for Fantastic Baby. So a lot of people stick with Fantastic Baby instead of going back to Tonight. But Tonight has its own special stuff. Like I personally think that the bridge, the lead up to the bridge for Tonight is better than the bridge to Fantastic Baby. Personally, it's just more dramatic. It's more emotional. You know, like it kind of all the sound goes out and then it starts to slowly build its way up and you hear this song while everybody else is chanting in the background. It's just like, ugh, woo! It sounds like a stadium. That, I guess that's what it is. Tonight to me is very special because whereas Big Bang did Fantastic Baby and it's this big kind of club anthemy song, Tonight sounds like a song that if you were to hear that being played in a stadium, people would lose their fucking minds because it just sounds huge. So, yeah. GD is making his return. Yes, I heard that. I heard that GD is supposed to be making a comeback, and I'm really excited about that. We don't really have much in the way of details on what this comeback is going to be, but you know, ever since he left the military, outside of like some shoe designs and some other stuff, we haven't really heard from him. And I don't know what his next sonic point is going to be. I didn't buy GD's last solo. I have his other solos. Well, I take that back. I don't own the Heartbreaker solo because my goal is to get a copy that has his face print on it. I don't know why I want that, but I just do. But I have the other solos. So I have One of a Kind and I have the Coup d'etat solo, but I didn't get the Untitled solo because it had this weird packaging thing going on. It was like a USB that they had taken red markers and marked on the outside of the USB so that if you were to open the CD case that the USB is in and try to take it out, you would get red ink on your hands because it was supposed to mimic the blood from giving birth. Yeah, no, you can have that. You can absolutely have that. I know. No, there's a lot of things in this world that I'm willing to do in order to service a concept, but I'm not fixing to reenact a birthing ceremony in order to listen to your album. I'm so sorry. Yeah. If you look it up. I'm not even making that up. Go on Google and look up the details of that album. That was what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be reenacting the blood from giving birth, which only a man would think that this is a cool concept. There were no women in the room when they came up with this. None at all. But yeah, I'm interested to see what he'd come up with. I would. Do they still sell that album? You can still buy it. I don't know if they make new versions of that album. I'm not gonna say that much. I don't think it sold out because I remember seeing it for sale like a couple of years after it came out. So it might still be out there floating around. But it's now been several years, so hopefully the marker has like been on the USB so long that it won't come off like it used to, or maybe it'll just like flake off or something so you don't get it on your hands. But yeah, it's still out there. If you want it, you can still get it, I'm pretty sure. But it was a USB album. So you had to have like a computer or something in order to be able to access the songs. It did not have a CD, which I guess, I mean, considering that most people do stream their music, I suppose a CD is not needed, but people who buy K-pop tend to buy the actual physical albums for K-pop for the photo book, and there was no photo book. You could only access the photos if you bought the USB. So in that case, it kind of misses the point of having a physical release. Like if you're saying that most people are streaming their music and that's the reason why you don't feel like you need to sell a CD, that's fine. That's your preference. But you have to understand the market. There's literally no point of making anything physical for an album if you're not going to have a photo book. What? David, you better stop. You better stop. Listen. We will talk offline, but you better stop. Anyway, I will. We'll private message there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of the year has to offer. There's a lot of really cool stuff in the pipe, so I'm really interested to see what the rest of the year has to offer for us because like I said, I feel like the last couple of weeks or this last month, there's been like some super standouts and then some other stuff that I really didn't care for at all. And so we'll see. Oh, the last thing I want to talk about before I leave, because I want to bring it back to the title of this video, Cautious Optimism. I am cautiously optimistic about NCT's Resonance Part 2. So the first teaser picture I saw, I remember tweeting and saying it looked like a select a character screen because it's like all of the members all lined up and they look like different sims options. But cautiously optimistic because Resonance Part 1 I really liked. I really, really liked it. To me, NCT's projects have just been getting better and better and better. And I'm really glad because for a while there, I did not know how far I was going to be able to go with NCT. So I have bought pretty much all of the main NCT stuff. I don't own the very first Wavy mini and I don't own the latest Wavy album, and I've not bought any of the NCT Dream stuff because they were infants and the music chewing gum, I was like, no, that's not me. And so I just never bought any of their stuff. But main NCT, I bought their very first album that had like the camo piece of paper thing on it. I bought 2 copies of Cherry Bomb. Don't know why, just did. I bought the Limitless album in all of its horrible packaging glory. I bought the repack of the regular album. I didn't get the regular album. I bought the repack. I bought the mini that has Superhuman on it, which I'm so mad at K-pop fans in general about Superhuman. Let me just give me some time to talk about this because I need to get it on here. I have spent a lot of time talking to you guys about how Superhuman is the SHINee song that SHINee never got to release. And I don't say that lightly. I really mean that shit. Like there's a couple of moments in the song where the vocalists from NCT are singing and it really feels like they are channeling the spirit of Shiny. And in particular, there are some moments that I swear I can hear someone mimicking Jung Yun's voice. And the very first time I heard Superhuman, I cried. Like I cried real tears, like physical real tears, because even thinking about that, it's actually starting to make me misty. I've cried real physical tears because it just felt like going back in time to a time when things weren't horrible, you know? And international NCT fans and Korean NCT fans seem to have hated that song. They were just like, nope, don't want no part of it. This is a flop. I really hope so, David. I really hope it. If there is a demo of Superhuman with shiny OT5 voices on it, I would pay real money to possess that. I would pay real money to possess it. And when I say real money, I'm not talking $20. I'm talking like I would spend $100 on it. If SM said we're releasing an album called The Demos and it was full of the demos that fans have been wanting forever, and one of them is the demo of Shiny doing Superhuman, I would easily pay $100 to possess that. Easily pay $100 to possess that. That was not the song that people liked on that mini. And to this day, I am extremely bitter about that because Superhuman was the best song on that project for in my opinion, but it wasn't the only good song. But for some reason, NCTizens, netizens, what are they called? NCTizens, NCitizens. I can never figure out how to pronounce that. They just didn't dig it. They didn't. Most of the other song, which I can't even think of the name of the other song, but it's the song that they're like dancing in the desert. Anyway, I, they just it's late. It's late where I'm at, so my mind is starting to get a little befuddled. But yeah, they didn't really care for Superhuman, and it is a slight that I still am not over. I'm still not over it. The people that I know, the people who have watched my channel for a long time, the people that I talk to on Twitter and everywhere else, they all loved Superhuman. They all loved it, but it's not even a song that anybody talks about when they talk about NCT anymore. When people talk about NCT and they're talking about like going back in the discography, people talk about Seventh Sense, which they deserve because that song is perfect. Um, People talk about uh, dance performance songs a lot, but people really just totally forgot about Superhuman. I would say within about maybe a month or two after Superhuman came out, people just totally fucking forgot about that song. And I just don't get it because to me, that song was incredibly strong. It is just, uh, it just harkens back to a period in SM that we're never going to get back. We're never going to get back. And so I'm cautiously optimistic that I'm going to love Resonance Part 2 because I really did like Resonance Part 1. I really liked the, is it Rezone? Fuck, I can't even think of the name of it now. The NCT album that came before that had Kick It and then they did the repack. I thought that was a good album as well. There are a lot of enjoyable B-sides on that one. Thank you! David always hears Ono on the chorus. Neozone, thank you. I don't know why I was trying to say Rezone. I think it's for some reason, again, it's late. Where I'm at, it is currently 11:17. So yeah, my mind is just mush. But I thought that the Neozone album was really good. I thought that Resonance was really good. Like I said, the Superhuman Mini, I really super enjoyed that a lot. So for me, it feels like NCT is just getting better and better every release. So I'm cautiously optimistic that I'm going to, if not love Resonance Part 2, I'm going to at least enjoy the majority of it. I hope. Oh my goodness, I was about to get off this live stream without talking about the most cautiously optimistic thing on the docket. ESPA. ESPA. So when I did my live stream talking about ESPA, I did that live stream almost immediately after the announcement of the group came out. I did not do that live stream after more of the information about that group was released by SM. Literally, like, SM has given us a name. That was when I did that live stream. And after that live stream, it seems like the fucking sky opened up and rain started pouring down because people have been raining on the ESPA parade since second two. Uh, Koreans do not like the fact that the group has girls who are accused of being bullies, girls who are accused of being shit talkers. They don't like that there is a Chinese member. Like, they're just really, they don't want ESPA currently. They are probably going to change their mind later. We'll see. But they currently do not like ESPA at all. Also, the avatar concept. There are so many things to talk about when it comes to this whole avatar concept. Apparently, Isuman, his idea is to have 8 girls in this group. 4 human girls and 4 avatars of these human girls. And they're all going to interact with each other, and these virtual members are going to be exploring all kinds of virtual worlds, including a world that you, the user, can create, because you will have the opportunity to have special, personalized, customized interactions with virtual members of ESPA. Immediately when that came out, people were like, this is going to get creepy. This is going to be on some Black Mirror shit. This is going to get nasty. Because already Uncle fans have ruined any innocence there could possibly be when it comes to girl groups. And so people were like, okay, this sounds like this could get into creep territory. Along with that, Isuman is like, SM is closing coex because we're going to be opening a hotel out in the Korean boonies, and we're going to put the coex there, and we're going to do a hotel that allows you to have the special experience of spending the night with your favorite idol. Now, if I was a 10-year-old kid, I might think that spending the night with my favorite idol means having a sleepover and telling ghost stories and drinking hot cocoa. But as a 41-year-old woman, spending the night with my favorite idol don't mean nothing clean. And I know SM's going to make it to where you're not going to be able to do anything inappropriate with these avatars, because they're not going to invest the money in it. But it's still, what a stupid, uncomfortable, dumbass idea. What a weirdo idea. Now, it'd be different if it's one of those things where it's like you go to a room and there's pictures of the idol in the room, maybe, but outside of that, like, what a dumb idea. But then, as if this idea of these avatars, 4th members, wasn't strange enough, we get 2 examples of what these avatars look like. They do one example of one of the members talking to her avatar in kind of like a talk show style setup, and the avatar's look is horrible. It looks like Tomb Raider 2008. It's like just the lowest budget transitional screen on a mobile app. It just looked like they spent no money on the IT at all. It looked obscenely bad. It looked stiff. The hair wasn't flowy. It just looked gross. And everybody's like, the fuck is this? Then we get a picture of a member with her avatar. It's Winter, I think, is who we got the picture with. She's standing with her avatar. This avatar looks completely different than the moving avatar that we saw in the interview. This avatar looks like a cartoon instead of like a 3D caricature. And she's drawn totally for the male gaze. She's drawn with larger boobs than the regular member has, bigger hips than the regular member has, an impossibly small waist, long ombre hair down to her fucking kneecaps. She looks nothing like the real life member. And it's just, again, SM, what do you expect us to do with this? I mean, I'm assuming you expect us to forget about this in 3 years when you've decided that this whole avatar thing is not making no sense and it's not making no money. But my goodness, what are we doing here? First of all, it's not even consistent. Were these last minute changes that were made? Did somebody fuck something up and you had to show us the demo initially and then this was what it's supposed to look like? It's awful. And if SM's trying to do the KDA thing, shame on you, because it's not going to work. Shame on you, because it's not going to work. Because one thing, KDA, the girls who do KDA aren't expected to do anything with each other other than maybe like one special appearance here and there. But for the most part, all the girls in KDA have their own individual music careers that they're handling. So that is one thing that makes KDA very, very different, is that they're not a full-time dedicated group of girls that this is their main gig. They're all off on their own worlds, whether it be in K-pop, whether it be in Western pop or otherwise. You've made this group their full-time gig. This is their career. This is these girls' full-on career now. I don't get it. Why would you, if SM really wanted to do a KDA style thing, instead of hiring brand new girls to do the voices of these avatars, they could have just taken their female singers that they already have and made them do the voices of these avatars. They could have been like, Taeyeon's going to be the voice of one of them, and Seulgi's going to be the voice of another, and then we're going to have like some other girls from some other company occasionally feature as guest stars. They could do that. They could make it a SM station thing. You don't have to take brand new girls who have not had a chance to debut yet and make them debut in this thing that kind of undermines their humanity. And this is not me saying anything bad about these girls. I honestly want the best for these girls. I really, really do. Because they've been SM trainees for a while, and SM's waited a really long time to debut a new girl group. So I don't have any animosity towards these girls. I really want them to succeed, but SM is like, it's almost like they're trying their hardest to stack the odds up against these girls. And maybe that's the reason why this group is so small, because they feel like if this doesn't work out, they can afford to throw away 4 trainees, which is a really shitty take on their part. So UL says, imagine how degrading it must be to have a perfect looking virtual clone. I imagine it is tough, especially, if you are talking about a clone who's written with proportions that a real life person cannot have without either extreme plastic surgery or without being in extremely poor health, or possibly both. You'd have to starve yourself to get the waist that your avatar has, but then you'd have to go to, Dr. Miami to get the big old boobs and booty that the avatar has. So M Century says, one positive I see is if the members have to go on hiatus, the AE members could fill in, but that also goes into replaceable territory. Well, I mean, replaceable is the name of the game. NCT is hoping, was initially supposed to be a replaceable system. So to do a girl group with a replaceable system, that's not far outside the realms of reality. Sarah says, the dancing rapping teasers haven't been anything absolutely amazing though. I will say that I was very pleased with the one rapping teaser only because SM girl rappers have a certain style of rapping that they do that is very kind of like almost 90s style rap. It's very much, I got a boy and I think he's cute. He likes me and he likes my boots. Like, that's kind of how SM girls normally rap. And this girl, her rap teaser was definitely more of a current style. So for that, I was very grateful for sure. Um, Makes me think about why other female trainees left. I mean, I wonder if the other female trainees left because they didn't want to be a part of this project, or if they left just because it was taking too long. Not for nothing, even though I wasn't extremely excited about Jessica's book after reading it, one thing that I thought was spot on at the very beginning of the book was the idea that there is like a golden window for becoming a K-pop idol. And especially if you are a girl, that golden window is between the ages of 16 and at the very tail end, maybe 23. But most girls don't want to debut outside of that golden window because if you debut too young, you end up being caught in a concept that you have a hard time growing out of. If you debut too late, most uncle fans don't want to buy your stuff because you're mature and that's not what they're looking for. So like when it comes to a lot of these groups, there are anomalies. There's exceptions to every rule. Like Brown Eyed Girls would be an exception to the rule. Maybe Mamamoo would be an exception to the rule. But most K-pop girls do not debut after their early 20s. Most of them don't. And so for some of these trainees that have been there for a really long time and thought that they were going to debut maybe within a couple of years of Red Velvet, I'm sure they were saying to themselves, like, I just can't wait. I just cannot wait that long. And so if that was the case, that they felt like they couldn't do it, I don't blame them for leaving, whether or not it was because of this cockamamie concept or not. I mean, I'm still going to check for ESPA. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying all this, but that's not going to keep me from buying their debut. I'm going to do it. But I say all that to say just, I don't blame them for leaving, whatever the circumstance, because you have to do what's best for you. And if you really feel like this is what's best for you is to be gone, do that. Because a lot of these girls that left were known because they did the SM Mickey Mouse Club over in Korea. So a lot of them, they left SM, but they didn't leave SM without getting their name out to the public, which makes them really desirable for the companies they eventually sign to because they bring along a certain set of pre-debut fans with them, and they bring on a story to tell on Variety and things of that nature. So they still have a chance at doing really good in K-pop without SM. Maybe not as great as they would debuting under SM, but still a really good chance at doing well. And some of your faves bounce from company to company. It's it's not it's not unheard of for somebody to leave a company and still have a great career ahead of them. A lot of people forget that JYP was supposed to have a power group at one point, and I want to say that power group consisted of Hyolyn, who ended up going to Sistar, and it consisted of Honey, who ended up going to EXID, and I think one of the secret members might have been in that group as well. But yeah, there's a lot of trainees that bounce from label to label until they get to where they need to be. There's people who have auditioned for SM that didn't make it and ended up somewhere else. So, leaving SM, a lot of people would see it as the kiss of death or you can't do any better, but people still have really big and fulfilling careers, even if they don't end up signing with that big three. IU didn't sign with a big three, and she was almost a big three girl, but it didn't happen. So, there's always hope. I mean, because, like, who's bigger than IU? Like, that is an extremely valid question. Who's bigger than IU? Like, yes, you can name several groups, but who solo is bigger than IU in K-pop? And it's not even just like album sales, because somebody might look at album sales and be like, oh, well, this person sells more. It's not just the album sales. It is the maintaining of chart successes. Every single thing she does charts and charts phenomenally. People are instantly enamored with everything she does. She also does amazing on TV for dramas. Like, there's so few idols that can do both. There are so few idols that can have like a thriving movie and television career and can do the idol thing and be taken seriously as an idol artist. IU is that woman. Yeah, she is what Boa could not manage to do due to SM's marketing. Absolutely. Absolutely. Like, IU is just it. She's just it. I'm just trying to think who. Like, I would say Rain is probably the closest in terms of like an idol whose musical career and their acting career are both taken very seriously. Those are really the only, because usually, and you're, feel free to correct me, feel free to leave comments. Usually when an idol goes into acting, they start to leave the music behind or the music starts to suffer. But for IU, that's never been the case. The music has always been just fine, even after the songs went gangbusters. Rain, very similar. Like, some of Rain's biggest acting moments in his career were also coming along the same time as some of his biggest musical moments. Um, Dio from EXO is another one, even though he's in a group, so he doesn't have as much pressure on him. But he is somebody who his acting career is about to eclipse his career as a singer. Like, it's really getting close to it. And then another one that I'm thinking of that bridges the gap for both, Eun Jung-hwa. Even though she's an older lady and her music career is not as consistent as other people that I've mentioned, her acting career kind of actually took her away from her music career in a lot of ways because it was so strong at one point. So, yeah, there's not many people who can do it like that, but I would say those four are the ones that I'm thinking of just right off the bat. And I'm sure you guys probably have more examples, but that's just what I can think of while I'm sleepy. Being international. Oh, I'm sorry. I wish IU had tried to appeal to international audiences more, though. If you don't live in Korea, it's impossible to find her light stick. It would be nice if IU had a larger international presence, but I think that's one of the reasons why IU remains so popular in Korea, because she has never tried to be anything other than what she wanted to be. And Koreans have really embraced that. They've never felt like she did her music seeking to go outside of Korea. And like, IU's had some Japanese releases, but they've been inconsistent, and in the last few years they just haven't even really been there. But IU definitely, she is comfortable in her place in Korea's heart, and she has focused her energies on definitely making things that the Korean general public can consume easily while still maintaining her artistic integrity. And she's just her, and sometimes people deserve their hometown heroes. That is another thing. Yeah, it sucks as an international fan when you have a Korean fave that isn't really as well known internationally, because as an international fan, you'd like to make friends with people who speak the same language as you, that you have a freedom of communication with, and you want to talk to them about your K-pop faves. And if your K-pop fave is not a big international fave, it's hard to find those fandom connections and make those communities and have those conversations. But sometimes it's nice to just have something that is strictly for you, you know? A great example of that to me is, I was on my Twitter timeline and somebody had posted a TikTok of somebody like nodding their head to songs that they recognized. And then if they didn't recognize the song, they would stay still. And the TikTok was like songs that were only hits in Canada. And I watched that TikTok and I didn't recognize a single freaking song that played. Not a one of them. And this person was like mouthing the words and nodding along. And there was like only one song that they really didn't get, but the rest of the songs they're like, that's my jam. Eh. And I was fascinated by this because, the US and Canada, we are not far away from each other. We really aren't. And there's a lot of very famous Canadians that have made it huge as pop acts in America. Like there's Drake, there's Justin Bieber, there's Shania Twain, there's The Weeknd. Like there's a lot of really big Canadian acts that do very, very well in America. So you'd think Celine Dion, you would think that we would have very similar radio hits. But there are people that are just very well known. Carly Rae Jepsen, people who are just very well known in Canada and just in Canada. And maybe not even in the entirety of Canada. Maybe they're like super popular in Nova Scotia, but not very popular in Quebec. And sometimes you need those hometown heroes. Sometimes you need that thing that kind of establishes your community. For instance, as an African American person, this happened, I want to say last year on Twitter. I think it was last year on Twitter. The question was, who are some legends in the Black community that people outside of the Black community have no idea about? And everyone was talking about the fact that most people who did not grow up Black have no idea who Frankie Beverly from Frankie Beverly and Maze is. And most all Black people know at least one Frankie Beverly and Maze song because Before I Let Go is like a staple at the cookout. And it's funny that this was an inside joke for us, but it's also kind of a point of pride that over the last 40 years, the Black community alone has maintained the career of Frankie Beverly and Maze because they're legends to us and we appreciate them, and so we've been paying to see them in concert for the last 40 years. And so it's kind of nice sometimes to have something that just belongs to your community and doesn't really belong to anybody else, because then you get to savor it. And for those of us who are lucky enough to actually follow IU, even though she's not super big in international K-pop circles, it's kind of a treasure for us that we're in on the national secret, if you will. Even though IU, of all the locals, I think IU is probably one of the best known locals of Korean acts. There's a lot of other Korean acts that international fans, a lot of them be like, who, what? Like you could say Nell to some international fans and they'd be like, who's that? Nell? What is that? So, I mean, on the scale of things, IU's very well known comparatively. Akmu, a lot of people, well, I would say a lot of international fans probably know Akmu about the same as they know IU, only because they are signed to YG currently. And there are company stands who are going to know these acts. Like there are YG fans that are going to know Akmu because, again, YG. I know personally one group that I don't know really well from a big three company is The Grace. The Grace is a group that I just do not listen to anything that they've ever done. So I don't know them very well. They're on SM. They've been on SM for years, but I just really don't know anything about them. So yeah, most YG company stands should know who Akmu is. So they do very well. All right, you guys. So I've been live streaming now for an hour and 20 minutes, and I can tell you right now, I know I'm going to be incredibly sick in the morning. Oh, Bubblegum, yes, Bubblegum 4. Even though I think they just call them Bowl 4, maybe. The Grace now work on training the trainees, haha. Um, yeah, Bubblegum 4 is one that doesn't get a lot of shine. Davichi is another one a lot of people don't know a lot about. SG Wannabe, they're an older group. but like Sadaga is considered a K-pop classic, and I don't think a lot of international people know much about them. I'm trying to think on the K hip hop, K R&B scene. There's a lot of people who are super popular with a certain subsection of international fans, but maybe they aren't as known to all international fans. Like, there's a few that cross over. Like, I would say Dean definitely crossed over. Crush has crossed over. Zion T has crossed over. But I don't think as many international fans listen to, like, Hoodie. I don't think as many international fans listen to Loco. I don't think as many international fans, fuck with BB like that. So yeah, it just goes to show like there's a lot of pockets here, a lot of pockets of fandom. So yeah, it's now been like almost an hour and a half. I'm gonna go, but I do want to say thank you for all of you who joined me because I am broadcasting this quite late in the evening for several of you, or perhaps in the middle of the night or early in the morning. It's not a time period that's optimal for watching a live stream. So I do thank you for joining me on this live stream because again, the hour is quite awkward. Um, but I will end it all by saying I remain cautiously optimistic about everything. I remain cautiously optimistic about music coming out towards the end of the year, comebacks, debuts. I have hope. I really, really do. And to bring it back to where we started, I'm cautiously optimistic that if Joe Biden actually does remain the president elect, that he will employ people under him who will help to affect change in America. Um, I'm not. I'm not going to say this as an indictment of anybody else's political beliefs. Whoever you voted for is your business, and you don't have to tell me. And I'm not going to call you a rotten person or a great person based on who you voted for, because I think at the end of the day, most people voted for the person that they thought was the best option that they had. I don't think there are many people who felt like they had the perfect candidate. I think people opted for their best option in this election. But there are a lot of things that I think need to change in America to help all the people who live in America, not just certain subsets of America. I think that there needs to be huge reform in our healthcare systems. I think there needs to be huge reforms in how we address mental illness in America. I mean, we always like to talk about how Korea doesn't do a good job with mental illness, but the way that our healthcare system funds therapy, funds rehab, funds clinical visits and, therapists and medications and everything else, it's laughable. It's actually laughable. Um, the way that America has allowed their education system to degrade over the years and how far behind we are of all the other so-called civilized countries. Um, our infrastructure, our bridges, our roads, our inner city transportation, like there's so much of it that's falling apart, and there's no funding to really rebuild things to last for another 100 years. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done in America. Climate change, it's a real thing, guys. As the fires that have happened over the last couple of years have shown us, we are running out of forestry to maintain our oxygen and temporal needs. So I just hope that whoever ends up being the final boss of this game we call the American election, I hope that they will really do some things that will help all of us, because we all need to be able to have access to a doctor when we're sick. We all need to have air clean enough for us to breathe. We all need to be able to feel like when we have a need for assistance, help is on the way. Real help. Not help based on what you look like, or help based on where you live, or help based on how much money you have, but just help. just real help. And so there's a lot to be done. And I really and sincerely hope that come 2021, the people who get elected to their various offices are prepared to show up and do the work. Because truthfully, they haven't since I was born. So I'm cautiously optimistic that maybe something will actually change. So thank you again for watching. I really appreciate you, and I'll talk to you guys later.